I used to feel like if a nigga said certain things to me, you a bitch, I do this to you, I hurt you. I used to feel like the choice was not mine anymore. That I had to now be ready to die about this shit.
I die by that.
That's wild. That all the hard work, all the countless like late nights,
you
early
throw it
mornings
away.
I've put into being this person, that I would throw that away because a word you said
Wow.
to me.
Wow.
That's crazy, right?
Crazy.
But we program like that to where it's like, that's how we grow up. And if you let that type of thing slide, then, you know.
He who can anger you is your master. Once again, it is an honor, privilege, and a pleasure to be in the midst of someone who has so much to offer, so much game, so much wisdom, a true philosopher of culture, and a great artist. The one and only Vic Mensa is in the building, man.
I appreciate you, man.
Come on, man. Like I've been wanting to sit down with you in Cannon's class for a long time because, you know, in passing, we've had the opportunity to chop it up, but we never got to dig deep.
Word.
And you're a brother that is so like multi-layered. You know how to have a good time. You know how to make music that everybody rock to, but then all, at the same time, you're also an activist. You're also, like I said, a cultural philosopher. Your mindset as a free thinker is not the same as your typical rapper. So, I mean, I know you're going to drop some wisdom and give us some gems, but I want to take it all. I want to go back. I want to go to the beginning, man. Let's talk, Chicago and even Save Money, man. Like that philosophy and entering the hip-hop game in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with all that?
That's around the time when I first met you too, man. When I first came on the show, I think I was like 19.
Real talk.
And, Save Money in its inception was just created to be like an antithesis to like the traditional hip-hop materialism, consumerism.
Yeah.
And so that was our crew from high school. Also, we like to steal.
Yeah. Was that the other aspect of it?
You know what I'm saying?
Like, we ain't gonna pay for it. We gonna save this money, so we go boost.
So that was our crew from high school. Me, Chance, Joey Perp, a gang of us.
And it was a real movement out the shy.
For sure.
And while the
movement.
drill music movement was going
simultaneously.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times, like, the game tried to pit us as being like the positive side to drill's negative side. Right. But in reality, man, I feel like Chicago is this complex place that I like to say is a microcosm for every hood USA. Because it's not so different what's happening in Chicago to what's happening in South Central, what's happening in Baltimore, what's happening in Brooklyn, Queens, lack of investment, under-resourced communities that have been decimated by the war on drugs, mass incarceration. We need to rename the mass incarceration. That's got to be the war on us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Real talk, modern day slavery.
And that's the perfect storm that creates a situation like Chicago, where you do have this like almost unique, virulent brand of violence that has spread. But sometimes I study some of the leading thinkers in violence studies. They look at violence like a pathogen or a disease. You know what I'm saying? And they study and track violence in that way. In the same way, when you are in proximity of somebody that has COVID, you're X times more likely to either transmit or receive COVID. You know what I mean? And violence, they look at it the same way. It's like if you're in proximity of violence, as we are, because we live in communities that, kind of rely on alternative money-making strategies.
Right. I like how you put that.
You know what I mean? And but the ill thing about it is that, like, I feel like America has this obsession with revisionist history and throwing the stone and hiding the hand because it serves the purpose of the powers that be. So it's like you can create this perfect storm and make Chicago the largest site of public housing projects, which they call it a project because it was an experiment. You know what I mean? And you can have it, build it up, tear it down, spread people of different street organizations, everybody's below the poverty line, and create all this bickering, fighting, and beefing within the black community,
Yeah.
and then you could step back for a
Just say,
good
"Look at
5,
it."
10 years
Yeah.
and just be like, look at them, these niggas are, they're terrible.
And
You know
then,
what I mean?
and then I'm gonna take back that land and make it overpriced and put some condos and all that stuff.
Yo,
because
when
you
they
done devalued the land so much. So now I can get it for the low and then double charge when I take it back. So the true essence of gentrification. I mean,
it's wild. Like Cabrini Green, man, when they
Cabrini Green, that's
when they
what I was gonna
tore
say.
down Cabrini Green, bro, it's so metaphoric to me.
And
now,
for those that don't know, Cabrini Green is a famous project that was built, I believe, in the 60s, right? Or
something like maybe even earlier, low key.
Yeah,
I
and
think the Greens was around.
and it
a
was
long
on the
time.
north side originally, right?
It's on the
downtown
north.
Chicago.
It's like right by downtown, near North Side, and I think it was like either the largest or one of the
And it's
largest
for people
housing
that
projects.
entertainment wise is where Good Times was actually based.
What about Cooley High? Was that in Cabrini Green too, or somewhere else? Time frame? But you
and
know,
then once they tore it down, they
Now they-
sent all of those. They displaced all of those people
and now they built a Target
right there.
on the land, a huge Target, one of the biggest Targets in the city, is
Wow.
right where Cabrini Green was, and I find that to be such a metaphor because it's like it was always targeted, and then when you say it like that, like they devalued it and then probably sold the land back to themselves
For the
for
low.
pennies on the
Yeah.
dollar. Like you got to know they have these plans, for decades.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing somebody said to me the other day. They were like, man, niggas, we be thinking about paying the rent today.
Yeah.
White people plan be 10 years in the future. You know what I mean?
Facts.
But that comes along with having generations of wealth that you can.
The systemic
you can
issues that
use,
the John D. Rockefellers are somebody that I study like intensely because they whole crew, the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, they were calculated. And there's a reason why you think we talk about the Elon Musk and
Right.
and all of those cats. They were the first ones.
It's
to
a
say, like,
blueprint.
they set up our public school systems. They set
Right.
up our medical systems, and it all served to their pockets at the end of the day. And they, even John D. Rockefeller in creating the education system, he said, I only want to teach the people enough to where they could be good employees,
Good workers.
Good workers.
To create a workforce.
Yeah. So that, and knowing again with the slave mentality that has constantly been perpetuated to our community, it's like the devaluing of the black man to where he was always property, he was always the good worker, and then if you got too uppity, they would either kill you or they would ever move you around. And that's exactly what they've been doing in our inner city, specifically Chicago. It's interesting. I was actually there this weekend. I was back there.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I go there once a month. I
You
tap
slip in.
Yeah. But they shouts out to Lewis Carr and everybody. They had the Waymaker Foundation that was hundreds, maybe 1,000 black men from Chicago together, gathered up to where and it was just one of those conferences, and I kind of go and I do the Cook County thing.
Yeah, I love when you do that stuff, man.
Yeah.
I feel like that was one of the realest things I've seen anybody in your position do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I know you to be that person, but sometimes it needs to be on Front Street one time so that you can set an example. Like, I think about that because in the Quran and in Islam, it's like they teach you that the act of charity done in silence calms the fury of Allah, or like that really pleases God when you
Yeah.
do something for someone and you don't say nothing about it. But then there's also times when you need to broadcast what you're doing in
To
a
lead
positive
by
sense
example,
so that
yeah.
people can see that and see, oh man, there's Nick Cannon with all the guys in the khaki suits in Cook County. Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing with my platform? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, how do I get down with something like that?
Nah, and it's real. I mean, I got such an affinity for Chicago and those guys in Cook County. So I've been doing it, you know what I mean? But I was just saying, going back even this past weekend, it just shows to a point that you made, is that there's so much brilliance in Chicago. These young people, they don't want to be at war, but again, it's been perpetuated in even that sense to where, let's keep it a stack. Like, gang culture in itself was created
in Chicago. Yeah, yeah.
You know, it even, you know, with the Stones and all that, eventually got out to the West Coast, and
Right.
you know, the Peace Stones became the Bloods.
Bloods,
you know,
see, that's the history.
But ultimately, all the way back to the Al Capone days.
Right. Yeah. The original.
The original gangsters were from Chicago.
No, straight up.
And so it's almost in the DNA of the city. But it always, you know, even when we want to talk about, when we all know the story of Fred Hammond, it always started from a space of young men in leadership.
Yeah, and mobilizing. I mean, when you think about a Chairman Fred Hampton, who was only 21 years old when he was murdered as the chairman Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party. I mean, he was mobilizing thousands of people. You know, the same
at 21.
The same way for Jeff Fort, who founded the Black Peace Stones.
Yeah.
He was 16 years old, mobilizing an army of thousands of men.
They still have him in a box right now to this day.
Same with Larry Hoover. You know what I mean? I think about those guys, and I recognize that born into a different set of circumstances, a Jeff Fort, a Larry Hoover, a Chairman Fred Hampton, these guys easily could have been the Elon Musk or you know what I mean?
They technically were.
Kanye West.
Yeah, they
you
were
know
the
what I mean?
leaders of our community.
Or Jay-Z, you know what I mean? But it was just like the circumstances that led them in the directions that they did. And even when you think about like the Black Peace Stones, that's who I came up under.
Right.
And some of those guys, man, it's like I saw a funny meme the other day. It was like the all the gang rankings. They was like the most this. They said the Stones, they like the smartest gang. They had a picture of Malcolm X like this, but it's like, you know, that ideology is actually really tied into this Nation of Islam ideology, and the Black Peace Stones are in a religious way. Now, there's a lot of contradiction to it, but I think that is what births the magic out of Chicago, is that you have this revolutionary history, you have, you know, the history of Chairman Fred Hampton, you have this artistic history and creative history from like Muhammad Ali living on the South Side, Baldwin and Gwendolyn Brooks, and
even Martin Luther King.
Coming down.
And he said the most racist place he had ever been was over there. Was Chicago.
You know, the Stones were his personal security detail.
Wow.
While he was leading that march, it was like through a suburb of Chicago called Cicero, and they were like beating them with you know, bats, rocks, bricks, all that shit. And they said they had a meeting at a table like this at the pool hall.
Wow.
And the Stones was like, man, we ain't fucking with this non-violent shit, nigga. And but so they kind of had a discourse about nonviolence, and they say the next day, man, they went back out there, and he had that, you know, that magic that he was able to get them on that program of nonviolence with him.
Man, and it's so amazing. I mean, we giving the game and kind of sharing the history, because a lot of people don't know that, because you just think, oh, Chicago. Every time somebody wants to have some discourse, it's always, well, what about the black on black crime in Chicago?
Yeah.
Like, that's the narrative they like to push forward.
Yeah.
But really, it stems from a space of leadership. And all of those gangs and all that violence was originally for protection of one's community. Now, it's been shifted, and you know, it's been commercialized, it's been, you know, used against us in so many different ways, and we have to take responsibility in that sense, to where we have to realize we are not each other's enemy. But and together, you know, we are a stronger force than separated. They want us to be separated.
That's one of the deepest principles, man. Like when I'm in Ghana, one thing I tell people is that this magnanimous weight lifts from my shoulders, because you quickly realize that, like, we don't kill each other in Ghana. Like, Ghana is a very peaceful place. I think about being in Chicago, and I return to Chicago, and sometimes the first night I start having nightmares again of shootouts and, you know, all that shit, because, like, in our communities, like in America, there's this deep fear that we've been taught and learned to have of each other. You know what I mean? It's like, take away the things that let me know you're Nick Cannon right now, the things that let you know I'm me, and it's just a dark street, and you walking this way and I'm walking that way. I'm like, what this nigga on? Because I kill his ass.
Because I think he's coming to kill me.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that shit is crazy, because sometimes I think about those voices that do not belong to me. You know what I mean? It's like that Willie Lynch voice,
Yeah,
and
the
that
low frequency.
that programming that is put into us, where it's like, man, they don't need to actively, oppress. Of course, they still do, and they
Yeah,
profit for that. But it's like the slave mentality is so deep in our culture and in our psyche that it's like now we have innate distrust and sometimes hatred for each other. That it's like we got to go deep to
yeah.
unprogram and unpack that.
And you're probably one of the few artists or even, people in the public eye that have those shared experiences. Like you from it, you know what I mean? Really from the south side of Chicago, but also have the heritage of Africa and Ghana. And not only, is that in your immediate family, but you now often go back and
Word.
get to, like you said, the average person isn't talking about, when I go to Ghana, the energy is different than when I'm back at the crib. Like having that, dichotomy to be able to say, this is what I've seen the world. I've seen every aspect of it. What is that message that we got to put forth to where, you on the front line in every way. So you have a valuable perspective.
I think one of the main things that I stress is that know from whence you came, then there are absolutely no limitations to where you can go. Much of our psychological confusion is due in part to an amnesia of our past. So we believe now that we're in America, now that we're in Jamaica, now that we're in Germany, we are no longer Africans. We're Americans. We're Jamaicans. We're Germans. We may be all those things, but don't forget we had names, gods, cultures before
We got
anything was washed away and given to us. Don't fall into that trap of demonizing and devaluing and hating on your own heritage, your own culture. And all that shit is confusion that is a web spun by the people that oppress us. I see there's a whole movement in America right now that's like, fuck Africa. We ain't Africans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean,
What do
that
you think that comes from? Just ignorance? Or just not
ignorance, but also like we've been pit against each other. That's in the Willie Lynch playbook.
Right.
It's like, how do you keep these people oppressed? Is you convince them that they are each other's competition, they are each other's enemies, they are not of one people. You convince them by skin complexion, you convince them by geographic location, you convince them by economic standing, you convince them by opportunity, field versus house. You make them compete and hate each other.
Yeah.
But it's up to us at this point to recognize that those man-made divisions were made by the people that profit from us being separated. It's like if we recognize as Black Americans that we've got this $1 trillion spending power and Africa is the land of the most natural resources and some of the most population growth, the most mobile money transfer. There's a lot that you can do. You know, if you were to take the money that we spend a year on parking tickets. My mama just sent me my parking ticket bill right now.
Right.
I could make a major investment.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not to mention clothes, shoes, Mercedes-Benz, bottles in the club. You save that money. Somebody that's in the club 2-3 times a month that's buying $500 bottles. You save that money, not only could you get out there, you could make an investment in Africa, in Ghana. I talked to a woman yesterday who told me that for $5,000, she built a home in Tanzania for an albino kid because the albinos are often like hunted by witch doctors. They got crazy. But she, for 5 racks, she built a home for the kid, retired the grandmother, bought a security system. It's like, and that's an act of charity, but you could also build a home for yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
and the land is actually yours.
It's crazy. You know what I mean? And something to recognize too that I would add to that message is like the misunderstanding exists on both sides. Black Americans have misunderstandings with Africans. Black Africans have misunderstandings with Americans. But there are the people on both sides that want to collaborate. Don't get fooled into believing that Africans as a whole are a monolith and they don't accept you because you're Black, because you're American. It's not true. there may be some, but there are plenty of people who welcome you to come home.
So and tell me a little bit about that, because isn't there's a movement of is it the welcome back home or what?
Yeah, it's called the Year of Return and
Yeah,
Beyond the Year of Return. So
Yeah.
2019, Ghana declared the Year of Return and just welcomed all Black American people to come back.
And they can have citizenship in Ghana.
You can get citizenship. You can open bank accounts. You can purchase land. Like,
just the power in that alone, like is if we took advantage of it.
word.
If every Black person that's doing moderately well, because even what you said, if any Black person with an extra few $1,000s,
Yeah, you can make some shake over there.
if you would figure out that plane ticket, whatever it was, go over there, do the paperwork to get your dual citizenship,
Right?
invest in that land as well as continue to do what you over here. And then bring back, like, that's so much economic power on both sides that I was talking to Akon about it, because obviously he's doing some things in Senegal and different areas is where, like, if you just
Building a whole city and shit.
but literally every Black person in America could become a millionaire here if they tapped in and invested into, because as we all know, Africa is the most mineral rich land and it's the most resource like they need the stuff that we have naturally here, and we can be a conduit as a culture, because one, we know what African American just culture in general sets all trends for the entire
For the
world.
whole globe.
But then
for the
imagine
whole
if we tapped in with real resources,
Mhm.
because now we actually have a place of origin that we can go to, become citizens,
Word.
and then actually, instead of invest, because it's all good, invest here. But like you
Right.
said, the system already got this locked. Invested in Chicago, you ain't gonna be able to be the next John D. Rockefeller.
Yeah,
you might get a little song.
You can't even buy a vacant lot for
But if you get a
5
small
Not a
bag
chance. Yeah.
and put that into
You
Ghana,
can make something
and
happen.
you can actually become a true tycoon. You can actually become somebody that is a groundbreaking individual in any field. It doesn't necessarily just have to be real estate or entertainment, but there's so much that's needed.
There's so
over
much
there.
opportunity. You know what I mean? At the same time, though, it's all complex, man, because the economy of Ghana and so many African countries are so interlocked with their exploiting oppressors. Like,
Right.
most of the gold and the diamonds and the coltan and the cocoa and the cobalt is sold up and owned by like European and American powers, and so
even Asian powers too.
oh yeah, definitely Asian powers, and so it's like we'll be selling away our natural resources for pennies. Then those are the unprocessed minerals, etc. They process the cocoa in Belgium, make it chocolate, and sell it back to us 100 times more expensively. And so the economy is already so fucked that like actually a lot of the Western investment, etc., in Ghana is like sending the economy to even more fucked proportions. But it's like it's really complex, you know what I'm saying? Because the governments of these African countries like really hold a lot of the blame. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of neo-colonialism.
I was saying it's still the colonization.
It's straight neo-colonialism, and it's like, so Ghana had Kwame Nkrumah, who was the first leading prime minister that led us to independence, and he was of a socialist bent, but he started collaborating with the Soviets because he wasn't rocking with America.
Right.
And the Soviets, honestly, the Russians have not been an enemy of Africa, not in the way that the Europeans and Americans have been, nowhere close. And so he had some nuclear energy and things like that. American CIA got him up out of here. They staged a coup, deposed him, and since then it's been just a lot of neo-colonial kind of like puppeteer governments where, across Africa you see this, that they have these leaders in place that are really just in the pocket of the European powers, and they coffer all their pockets and all their people's pockets,
Right.
and they're pilfering the nation. You know what I mean? This is like.
And now let's talk about, because you're in the space, and you and Chance have put on actual concerts, and not only just bringing entertainment, but that's bringing, economic infrastructure in a different way. One, how did y'all come up with that? Two, did you see the direct effect of, how much was it, 70,000 people there? Or
Like 52,000.
yeah. So, and then, to bring cats like yourself, and the concert was off the chain.
It's crazy.
But you personally put that together.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about?
I was in Ghana in maybe 2020, and I was at a restaurant, and I met a guy named Nat Essien, who was at a restaurant. He had this same tattoo of mine.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, damn, I hadn't spent much time in Ghana since I was a kid, periodically, but like to really meet the young people, the youth that are in the music field, and see that, this guy's been following the music for 10 years and locked in. And it just started to occur to me that it doesn't make any sense that I'm actually from here. And even I have never performed here. And most of my friends in the music industry who are black musicians, like of African descent, have performed all over the planet, but have never performed in Africa. And so I just started imagining that there's got to be a way that we create a vessel by which the people can connect across this ocean, and because they love the music. They've been following, they got the phone, they tapped in with every piece of the culture.
Right.
And the infrastructure and the intention often just isn't there to come perform from them. A world tour very rarely touches the continent, and they take note of that, So I'm just knowing that
because we're always told, because I even like trying to even right now figure out how to take the Wild 'N Out tour over there. They're told, oh, you can't make no money over there. It's too expensive. A show. Sometimes these shows to put on cost several $100,000.
It costs money.
And if you're not gonna make that in return, and sometimes you look for sponsors or big business to help, cover some of the costs. But again, just the flights alone sometimes. Can show
flights for the team. It could just be super heavy. So I knew it was gonna take.
But you had to deal with all of that.
I knew it was gonna be. It was just gonna take a lot of friends. You know what I mean? And the first person that I called, spoke to about it was Chance. I think actually he called me, man. He was like he wanted to come to Ghana. I told all my friends that I was there, and out the blue, he hit me like, man, I want to come like on Saturday.
Wow.
I'm like. All right, I could sort you out, get the visas and all that shit. Like, we kind of got that shit sewed up. And so when he got there, I just spit that lick to him, this idea, this festival, and he was on board. And we just put it together, like, quickly.
That's so dope, man. And then, how long did it take and who all actually showed up?
I think he must have came to visit me there in January, and then the concert was the next January.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like all the Ghanaian artists, quite a few of them. A guy named Sarkodie, like the biggest rapper out there. My guy Manifest and Stonebwoy and Asaka Boys, a lot of them. And then Toby Nwigwe, who's in both worlds, is
he's Nigerian, right?
He's Nigerian.
Yeah.
Myself, Chance, Erykah Badu, the goddess. Jeremiah, Dave Chappelle. Talib Kweli was there.
Man, that's big. That is the greats.
Oof, it was so dope, bro. T-Pain.
That's crazy.
Yo. So what? The real Sway. Sway. Yeah, when I saw Sway there, man, I was just like too excited. I turn around, I'm DJing, and then here Sway is. I'm like, what you doing?
The culture is in the building.
Real talk. Like Jay Ivy and those guys, Chicago guys.
So are you guys gonna try to do it again? I know the next one is in Jamaica.
Yeah, we're working on doing it again in Jamaica right now. I mean, we definitely will. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's for sure a big undertaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then the entire diaspora, man. That connection matters. I mean, I've even through Howard, I went with one of my professors.
Did you go to Howard?
Yeah. Recently, I went to
Recently?
Yeah, I went.
Right, because I'm like, when would you have gone to college?
Yeah. And I went from 2016 to 2020 and got a degree in criminology, and I was really to go.
What does that encompass?
So really, I went to I was really just going because I wanted to, it was like, yo, I'm gonna go try to get one of them vanity degrees,
Right.
see if I could get
Get that,
communication.
But that's not the honorary. You was like,
Yeah, I was
you
really
finna
trying
go
to
to
do
school.
it, but I still
Yeah.
wanted to take the shortcut.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
I
like,
hear you,
yo,
I
I'm
hear you.
already the master at some of this stuff. And then honestly, once I met with a professor of mine for the first time in 2016, her name was Dr. Bahia Muhammad, and she was going inside these facilities of incarceration in the Inside Out programs, and then she had created a situation called Mothering in the Field, where she did all this dissertation, all this stuff about really her being a mother, but at the same time going into prisons and actually,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Say mothering in the field.
that's her whole movement. I mean, she's a powerful.
I never thought about the fact that when we say I'm in the field, we in the field right now.
Yeah.
Like the analogy to slavery too. I never thought about that.
Exactly. And then so, I mean, Dr. Muhammad, who is amazing, but she created this system to where she was helping brothers get their degrees while locked up. And we was going to the DC jails and everything. And then what we did a study and we went to Uganda together. And we went to the prisons over there.
Damn.
And the thing that's dope, what we learned that we can actually implement in the States is over there, if you have parents that are incarcerated, and Dr. Muhammad always says this, like when you incarcerate a black man, you incarcerate
Family.
his whole family.
The whole family.
When you incarcerate a black woman, you incarcerate the whole
family.
community.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, that's real.
You know what I mean? So, and it's almost even like Minister Farrakhan always says, you devalue the black woman, you're devaluing the entire civilization. And it shows the importance of when by removing the matriarchs and even the patriarchs out of the black household in any part of the world, you're actually you're tearing down the entire system. So once we went over there, I saw what they did is all of the children that were children of incarcerated individuals, they put them in private school. And they gave them extra attention so they could break the cycle.
Damn.
So I was like, wow, imagine if they did that in Chicago. So, and the crazy thing,
That's crazy.
The statistics here in California, the state of California spends $300,000 to incarcerate one young person a year. Imagine if you took that same $300,000 and gave it to that young person instead of putting them in jail and sent them to college.
Yeah.
They would say not only would that pay for the full tuition, that would get them a luxury vehicle,
Right.
a condo, and the food for the entire year, and still have money left over. But instead, we want to spend that $300,000 to lock them up.
It's too profitable for America to, keep us in a perpetual
Goes back to that John D. Rockefeller
cycle of
to where
oppression and
we
exploitation.
only want to educate them and empower them enough that we can still control them.
Yeah, it's way too profitable. But that's a super creative strategy that Uganda used. I've always felt like I would love to see a world in which single mothers, like the single mothers in our communities, have free education.
Yeah.
Just see what happens there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they have a free pathway to receive an education of quality, how would that impact the hood?
It's so interesting, though, because even to that point, I don't know the exact statistic, but I'm paraphrasing, but they do say that black women are
way more educated.
Yeah, the most educated group in all of America.
Right.
Collectively. And it just shows that, it's there.
Right.
It's just thin, but at the same time, we also know how devalued, and disrespected, as even Malcolm X stated, that the black woman is because of going back to the slave culture and the stuff that from the origin when we got over here, the way it was set up. Everybody was so dehumanized that even though now where the upward mobility is happening, it's still like, all right, well, you can only reach so many levels.
And it's also really like fragmented and compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Like we like to confuse exceptional examples in the black community with mass change. When it's like really at a mass level, we still have $0 worth of net worth for our families compared to every $100 for a white family. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Even though you got some of us that look good and like we getting money, you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
people around us getting money, but as a whole, I think everybody is actually sliding. You know,
Yeah.
what's something that you said though that made me think was like the devaluation of the black woman and like how um, how important it is for us as black men to be super vigilant of our own devaluation of the black women. I think
Facts.
that the Megan Thee Stallion situation, it exposed a lot
Man, we was just talking
between me
about
and
this.
my guys because I'm looking and I'm seeing and I'm like, how much evidence do y'all need? How much evidence do we need to stop casting so much doubt on this black woman who got shot? You know what I
Right.
mean? And like the way that so many people in the world
We was just
like,
talking about this, man. It's
you
so
know,
crazy.
and nobody would believe. And I'm like, I'm looking at my own friends and I'm like, are you not seeing what I'm seeing?
And
Like,
because the snitch culture, the hold down the guys, all that type of stuff. Because even as somebody who knows both of them, like I just almost had to just check myself because like you like, and really I'll be honest, I got silent because I'm like, I want to hold Megan
Nah.
down,
right.
and I also don't want to tear down Tory, but then at
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
time,
yeah.
the facts are the facts.
Yeah.
So what? And then I said this morning. I said hip hop owes Megan Thee Stallion an apology, like,
In a
and
major way.
not just a quiet apology, not just a
Yeah.
text,
Amplify. And you
not
know what
just,
gets
not just a post.
right.
We got to do it
I'm
out
mad.
loud because when it was a joke, Cameron, 50 Cent,
The joke
Drake,
ain't right.
like,
Yeah, the joke ain't right.
everybody. But if that was your sister,
That's what I always
if that was your mama,
that
if that
was the
your
analogy
daughter,
I always made. As somebody with two sisters, I always said, man,
we be ready to shoot something up. Like,
I'm saying, man,
you shoot my sister, I'm shooting
I don't know
you.
what happened, how it bounced, you know what I mean? But I do think like it's really, really a moment for us, you know, without pointing any fingers,
Yeah.
particularly for us to just
That's what I'm saying, as a culture.
for us as a culture to assess, analyze, and realize that there are many ingrained thought process in us that are hateful of black women,
Yes.
and we have to recognize
And we
that.
did it. We did it.
But because really, I feel like that hatred of black women is just another manifestation of the self-hatred. Because
It
where
is.
do you come from? Every black man comes from a black woman.
Every person,
You know,
comes from a
every
black woman.
human
Let's
being
keep it a
comes.
stack.
Every human being comes
Yeah.
from a black woman. So if we can't protect or even believe,
Yeah.
you know, black women when the facts are all there, then we have to look at ourselves and
Like, how do we turn her to the villain? It
That's
was the
crazy.
thing that, and again, I mean, it played out like the strength that, and then we forget how much Megan Thee Stallion actually went through. Like, she lost both of her parents. You know what I mean?
heard about that.
You know what I mean? Like, her mom was actually a part of her career. She was her manager on the come up during, and then. And we can go on about this
Right.
forever, but like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
just bring
yeah.
up a great point to where we saw her strength,
Yeah.
we saw her resilience.
Wow.
You know what I mean? She
Massive
still
amount
could
of
get
strength.
on Instagram and smile and dance and all of this type of
Massive
stuff,
amount of strength.
knowing what she was going through.
We just need to check our motherfucking selves and
Yeah.
just realize that we got so much growing to do as a people. You know what I mean?
And we complex.
And
you
we
know?
think we
Yeah.
sometimes we think we woke and we think we have a developed perspective and
Right.
understanding, but then we'll fall into the same old traps that were programmed into
Yeah,
us, and we
so
got to
much
break
so-
free of that, man.
Yeah, like we
go out of our way though to protect, honor, respect black women, not just when it's your mama. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Not
all
just
of
when
them.
it's your sister.
'Cause it's somebody's
you know what I'm
mama,
saying?
it's
But when
somebody's
it's
sister.
somebody's mama, somebody's sister, that's on us. That's on us as black men, and for us to have the conversations in our circle with our guys
Yeah.
to be like, nah, you tripping, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Now that's real, and I feel like it's there. It's just the seeds are planted. We just got to let them manifest, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where I want to go to because I know we wrapping it up. But it's like I want to tap into your spirituality for a second because in these scenarios, being that man, you in hip hop, like we come from the mindset to bitches ain't shit.
Yeah,
Niggas gotta
right.
go get it, kill it. I'm gonna shoot you. You shoot me. Like,
It's so crazy.
yeah, but it's in us. You know what I mean? And that's the shit we turn up to. But then
Well, that's the thing too, though. I feel like that's the program, and
it's the spiritual warfare. It's
that's
even
the
one,
spiritual warfare
it goes
right
even
there.
one step further because again, we can take responsibility or all of the systemic issues, and we
Yeah.
talk about all of that from the. But at the end of the day, you take all of that away. We're responsible for the
us.
God energy within
Yeah.
ourselves. So for you, man, how do you that inner struggle, that balance?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that, and what have you learned to know that, I'm still one of the guys from Chicago, but I'm also a high frequency evolved individual, highest class of civilization that can walk amongst the people in the nation, that can, understand the Moorish science, understand these elements of spirituality that shows that we are greater than just these, earth suits that we in.
Yeah, I've been deep in the spiritual bag, and for me, it's coming to understand and recognize that beyond being from Chicago, beyond being Vic Mensa, beyond being Victor Mensa, I'm an infinite being, though. I'm an infinite spiritual being comprised of energy in tune with every piece of the universe, in tune with God, in tune with Nick Cannon. We are one and the same. I'm in tune with trees, the earth, the leaves.
We all
you know what I
aligned.
mean?
Yeah.
I have to stay in that space and make it simple as well. Energetically, what's true? What's honest? A lot of what we revolve around in hip hop and a lot of our talking points are, once again, it's just a regurgitation of our oppressors' ideas about us.
Yeah. Facts.
Bitches ain't shit. Is that some slave master to tell you?
Yeah.
You know what I
Facts.
mean? These bitches
Facts.
ain't shit. I got them working in this
Facts.
field.
Facts.
And man, we
And
gotta
we turned it into a mantra.
I gotta be conscious of that and not allow those things to live rent free in my head and stay in a space of prayer. Like I didn't used to be religious. I've always been spiritual, but honestly, since I started practicing Islam, that's given me a lot of perspective because there are things in Islam, like there's this principle of these two angels that that sit there and they record all of your actions, your moves, even your thoughts, which is something that's very similar to a yogic science and Eastern belief about karma. Like your karma is not as simple as we make it to seem. In the actual karmic science, just me thinking about somebody in a negative, violent way is actually, they say, more karmically damaging than if I actually punch you. Because if in my mind I kill you 1,000 times, then that's more damaging to my karma. So learning about karma, learning about Islam, and applying those principles to be like, okay, I need to catch myself if I'm even manifesting negative thoughts about somebody on repeat. Let me just send them a blessing instead, because a lot of us start to let our minds run wild. That's what the human brain can do to us. It's like in its state of madness, it'll do. And you say, oh, I'm not doing anything wrong. I didn't actually touch him, but you're sitting here hating on that person. Like you're waking up hating on them, going to sleep hating on them. That's so much more damaging
within you.
It's so much more damaging for us than it is for them. And I came to learn, man, like I had some situations in the last couple of years where I approached it differently, and somebody that I loved did me really wrong, stole from me, but instead of like just allowing it to live rent free in my head and being like, this is what I'm gonna do when I catch him, I'm gonna motherfucking burgers, instead of doing that, I just kept praying, man. I kept praying and I kept blessing him, told him, look, God bless you, block the number. God bless you, block the number. And I had this prayer I was saying to God, like to Allah, I say, Allah, I place you in between me and all those that wish to do me harm. And, the person was getting more and more upset, but ultimately in time, the situation kind of just withered away and fell of its own weight. Whereas in the past, if I might have kicked somebody dough down and did this, now
you got charges.
Next year of my life is paranoia, though. Then you see my face pop up with a gun charge, and it's not just because I'm like trying to be tough. It's because like, man, my passion and my emotion got the best of me, and now I would be foolish to not have no gun on.
Right. Because now you're trying to protect yourself.
Because I just violated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so being in a spiritual space and realizing that it is it is spiritual warfare, and the strength that is not taught to us is that it's far more powerful to learn to accept and let go oftentimes than it is to actually engage. People don't even know how to deal with you when you do that.
Yeah.
When they come to you with some hating ass, negative, toxic energy and you don't bite,
Yeah.
they don't even know what to do with that. But it feels so, it's hard in the moment though.
Yeah,
you know?
because we human.
It's harder.
And
A
we
motherfucker
wanna
say something crazy to me, it's way easier for me to be like, knock your ass out right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They
Like,
say he who can anger you is your master.
that's what it is.
You know what I mean? So if somebody could take you off your square, they control you.
And they control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They control what I do now. And don't let me, because I was having this conversation with my boy the other day, with Emory Jones, actually. I was like, I used to feel like if a nigga said certain things to me, you a bitch,
Right.
I do this to you, I hurt you. I used to feel like the choice was not mine anymore. That I had to now be ready to die about this shit.
Yeah.
You know, I had to be prepared to take it to the ultimate level.
I die by that.
I used to feel like that, but that's wild. That all the hard work, all the countless like late nights,
you
early
throw it
mornings
away.
I've put into being this person, that I would throw that away because a word you said
Wow.
to me.
Wow.
That's crazy, right?
crazy.
But we program like that to where it's like, that's how we grow up. And if you let that type of thing slide, then, you know.
Man, that's the fact that you had that revelation and that we are witnessing your evolution and your growth is beautiful, brother. So I commend you.
My brother, hey, before we get out of here
Honor.
too, man, I got the vinyl copy of the new album, you know.
Fire. We gonna put this right. I got the
This
vinyl
album
collection.
cover, man, this is painted by a Chicago artist. It's like a 6-foot painting.
That's dope.
You know, it's crazy. Chicago artist named Teron Cooper Soros.
That's so fire, man. And I mean, like the album. I mean, you talking that talk, you dropping gems. There's so much wisdom on here, and I mean, really, like you said, this is it's you sharing your real stories. This life's work on here, man.
Yeah.
So this is this the Victor album? Is
That's
this
the
the
Victor
one?
album.
Is this the one? This the one that
That's
they
the one,
gonna
not
talk
the two.
about?
Yeah, that's the one, not the two, man.
Man, so I appreciate this. It's an honor. We got to do this again. We dropped
got
so
to.
many
I know
gems.
we got to. We're going to need like 5 hours.
Exactly. And like I said, this How to Eat to Live
Hey, this
by
me.
Elijah Muhammad, a
This
book that changed my
me.
life in so many ways, man. And I know it's you're an avid
Man, thank you, bro.
seeker of wisdom. So
This means a lot to me, man.
we rock real heavy. This has been another edition of Candace Class with, like I said, a cultural philosopher, a true artist, and a brother that I admire so much. Highest class of civilization, Vic Mensa.
My brother, I appreciate you, man. Yes, sir.